Welcome to a complete overview about gaming on Mac, especially when there are games that are Windows only. And therefore this video has a complete step-by-step tutorial about the paid software CrossOver and its free and open source alternative Whisky, where you can run Windows only games on Apple Silicon. Before we start, all the links you need are down in the video description. And by the way, now would be a very good moment to subscribe my channel, click the bell for notifications so you don't miss a new video. The software we need to have Windows software run on macOS is called CrossOver from CodeWeavers. And they, on their website, offer a free 14-day trial where you can just download the software, do everything that I show you here, and it's working for 14 days. There's a countdown at the beginning, and after 14 days, you can either stop using it, that's fine, just delete it, or you pay for that. It's $74 and you have 1 year of support of updates and so on. There's a free alternative though, that's called Whisky. Whisky does the same. It's not that comfortable with the usage. And there's one big difference that I'd like to show you at the very beginning. If you go to the wiki of Whisky and you click on Whisky versus CrossOver, they have a comparison. What does CrossOver and what does Whisky? And as you can see, yes, Whisky is entirely open source, and so you have free updates forever as soon as the developer of Whisky continue to develop it. The last version is from November, so it's still actively developed and there are updates coming. And there are some features we talk about later maybe that both have in common, but you can see some things Whisky doesn't have. It doesn't have automated installations. And that is one big issue I will show you later in the video. It's not that comfortable. You just click, I want to install this, and everything is done by CrossOver. You have to do many stuff manually by yourself. It does not support the Nouveau. The Nouveau is an anti-theft software. It checks if you have bought the software, if it's original software, and it's also anti-cheat as far as I know. So if there is software protected by the Nouveau, it doesn't work with Whisky. It does though with CrossOver. The same is for the Epic Games launcher, Battle.net, and Ubisoft Connect. Those three launchers, and I tested it myself, do not run with Whisky. And the next thing is maybe the reason why they do not run, that is called Wine 9 support. So what is wine? We're talking about CrossOver, we are talking about Whisky and wine. We're all about getting drunk today. No, we're not. All those software depend on wine. And the name wine comes from wine is not an emulator, W-I-N-E. Because wine is an open source software that enables the translation. That is basically the translation layer to run Windows software on macOS. And Whisky is using Wine version 7. And so some new features of Wine version 8 and 9 do not work with Whisky. They do work with CrossOver, as CrossOver uses Wine 9. And so that might be the reason why Battle.net and so on doesn't work with Whisky. And obviously proper technical support and regular updates to Wine, that is what I talked about, Wine 8 and 9, are not included in Whisky. So here's the first decision point. If you are if you're planning to play games from Battle.net that are Windows only, like Diablo 4, or maybe Diablo Immortal as far as I know, or the remake of Diablo 2, these are only Windows games. Whisky is not an option for you. You need CrossOver. Same when you have a lot of Epic games in your Epic Games launcher, or Ubisoft games like Anno or Prince of Persia or whatever, that doesn't run with Whisky. So let's look into CrossOver. And that is a regular macOS software. You just install it and it pops up like this, but with a blank screen. You can see here all the games and all the launchers I tested. And now let me give you a step-by-step example how you create a bottle. Another funny word, as we're talking about wine, that's a translation layer. All the software is in bottles. What is a bottle? A bottle is just an enclosed package where you have some very few but important parts of Windows, and you will see it in a minute, that just gives the software you want to install, as it is Windows software, gives it like a typical C drive, a system drive of Windows. But it's not a full install. As I said, it's not Parallels, it's not a virtual machine, it's just a wine bottle, okay? You can see here, these are the different bottles on the left side. And when we start Whisky, you have all the bottles here on the left side as well. The good thing with Whisky though, you can see it's called Battle.net Launcher. I can just do a right click, say rename, and give him a new name, and just maybe give it the name Battle.net, and say rename, and it's renamed. First tip for CrossOver, if you right click on this, you cannot rename it here. And let me show you where you can find all those icons, especially if you create a bottle and there are some more icons in it that you doesn't want. So you have to go to your home folder here, which is called users and then your username. And then you go to applications, CrossOver, and there you find all the icons and the names of the icons. If you want to, you can just click on it and rename it, and then you might need a restart of CrossOver so it reads the name of the icon again, and then you have the icon renamed. The good thing about CrossOver is that you have automated installs and you have a database. They actually have a database with all games and the best settings for the games so that they run as fast and smooth as possible. You just go to your home folder and you say install. And now it shows you the popular applications. So Counter-Strike, Cyberpunk, Diablo 2 Resurrected, Diablo 4, Steam, and so on. And it also gives you a rating, how good it runs. So you can see here, Cyberpunk runs well. That's 4 out of 5 stars. You see Ubisoft Connect installs, but it will not run. And so you have an idea, does it make sense to install it? Is it worth my time to install it? Because obviously, when I click on Ubisoft Connect, that it only has 2 or 5 stars. And you say, how do they know that? Okay, you can go to more info, and it opens up the web page of CodeWeavers of CrossOver for Ubisoft Connect. That is the games database they have. And you can see here that these are the ratings for the different versions of CrossOver. And if you are looking for a game or for a game launcher, you just type what you want to install. For instance, if you type Guild Wars, and as you can see, Guild Wars 2 runs great. Let me show you how to install that bottle right now. I already got it installed, but we just do a Guild Wars 2 test bottle. Okay, if you click on that, you can see it will download the installer from ArenaNet, from the developer. So it's the same as if you would go to the website of Guild Wars 2 and download the installer. So CrossOver does that automatically for you. And then it will install that into a bottle. And in this case, let's edit that. It will call it Guild Wars 2 2 because there is already a Guild Wars 2 bottle. Let's call it Guild Wars 2 Test. And you see the bottle type is Windows 10 64-bit. You could choose from Windows 98, Windows 2000, Windows XP, Vista 7, 8, 10, and 11. But the Windows 10 64-bit bottle is selected according to the database what are the best options for Guild Wars 2 to run. So it's quite easy for you. You don't have to choose any options, any setup. It's all made for you. So you said done, and as it says here, CrossOver will also install additional dependencies, and that are like DirectX, .NET 3.5, and so on and so on. So let's click install and you will see what happens. Creating the Guild Wars 2 test bottle. So it creates a new bottle where it installs everything in it. A normal bottle is about 1 to 2 gigabytes only for the bottle. So now you see WebDing's font, it needs some fonts, some type fonts installed into that bottle to have Guild Wars run perfectly. So we say yes, it installs that font. And you can see it up here, installing troop type font, Impact, Verdana, Endale, and Courier, and so on. So someone figured out that you need these fonts to be installed to have Guild Wars run very smooth and perfectly. And now you see it's installing DirectX from June 2010. It's called DirectX for modern games. Obviously we say yes, and it installs that version of DirectX into that bottle. We have another DirectX that's here, and obviously we accept the agreement, and we install this DirectX version also into the bottle. You just have to click yes, accept, whatever, it does everything for you. Oh yeah, it's done. Let's click finish so it can continue. And now it's installing Guild Wars 2. And you will see there's the bottle and there's Guild Wars 2. I have one bottle for Battle.net. I have one bottle for the EA app, one bottle for Steam. So I have all the games from Steam in one bottle because the bottle just starts Steam. One more thing for the understanding. Right now the bottle is created, and here on the right you can open the C drive. That is the system drive of that bottle. And you can see on the left side here, that is the bottle Guild Wars 2 test. There's the drive C. And all the Windows users might recognize that. You can see there's a Windows folder. But it's a very small folder. It's only the very basic stuff Guild Wars might need from Windows to run. Then you have a users folder where you can see the user CrossOver is your user. And there you have regular stuff like app data, local, you have documents, downloads, pictures, and so on, as if with a Windows install. Let's go back a little bit. You have program data, you have program files, and there you can see the Guild Wars 2 setup. That is the one that will be started when we click on that logo. You don't need to go into that C drive. I just wanted to show you how a bottle is set up. So if I would install Guild Wars 2 right now into that bottle I created, that software is installed into the bottle. The bottle is here on the hard disk. So that bottle would be about 50 gigabytes or 70 or 80 or whatever size the game has. And if you want to use the data on maybe an external drive, you go into Wine configuration on the right here. And then it opens up such a Windows looking window here. And here at the top there is the tab drives. And you can see the drive Z here just has a slash. These are all the network drives. So if you go in here and you say browse, you can see that we are now in the macOS drive, because var, users, sbin, home, library, these is my hard disk on the MacBook Pro. So there is a folder volumes, and that folder volumes shows Macintosh HD, that is my internal hard drive, the recovery partition of that hard drive, and SSD extern, that is my external drive. And if I go here, I just go to the Guild Wars 2 folder maybe and say OK. And now if I say apply, the drive Z is the Guild Wars folder, the Guild Wars 2 folder on my external drive. And you can do that, and I will show that in a minute, also for Battle.net or for Steam, to point that to your Steam library or to your Battle.net games location. So right now, let's start the Guild Wars 2 logo here. And you can see on the right side, while it's loading, that there's one option selected that is DXVK. And that is the Vulkan graphic engine. It could also be selected D3D Metal, that is DirectX, that is translated to Metal, which is in macOS. And you can see eSync, MSync, high resolution mode, these are all options that can be selected, but this selection here is the best selection that all the users had for Guild Wars 2. Right now, it likes to have access for a removable volume, which is my external drive. I can allow that. And there you can see there is the launcher. It just downloads some updates, and then we will be greeted by the Guild Wars 2 launcher, and it would start downloading all the files it needs. As you can see right now, the Guild Wars 2 bottle has 4 icons here. You can just go to the Finder, to your home folder, Applications, CrossOver, and you can see there is Guild Wars 2 Test, a Guild Wars 2 Test folder with all these different icons. If that is too much for you, you just want it clean and smooth, you can just maybe delete this one here, that was the old launcher, and then you just get this over here, you delete the rest of that, so you can make it nice and easy. And you can see there are 2 Guild Wars 2 icons, and in brackets here is mentioned what is the appropriate bottle for that. So that is Guild Wars 2 from the bottle Guild Wars 2. That is Guild Wars 2 from the bottle Guild Wars 2 Test. So I just deleted everything else. Let me just close CrossOver, and you can see it just scanning all the bottles. Open it up again, and you see Guild Wars 2 Test only has 1 logo. All the rest is gone. So that's how you keep it nice and neat. And here you can see there are 2 Guild Wars logos in the home screen, obviously because we have 2 bottles. How to get rid of a bottle? Okay, you can just click right on that bottle and you can rename the bottle here. You can duplicate it or you can just delete it. That's what we do. You delete the bottle and then it just gets rid of everything, and you can see the logo is gone and we only have the regular Guild Wars 2 bottle that I already created for testing. When we say install, and that is another tip for CrossOver, if I point in here Battlefield, so if we go to Battlefield 1 maybe, you have to be careful where you own that game. Because Battlefield 1 runs well as tested, but when you look down here, CrossOver will install Battlefield 1 via Steam. But if you have bought it on the EA app and not on Steam, that doesn't help because it will install Steam. It makes a Steam bottle and then it installs Battlefield 5, but you don't have no license in your Steam account for that. That doesn't help. So how do you run a game that's maybe a regular download from Good Old Games, GOG? Or maybe a game you have already installed somewhere that doesn't need to install. So like Cyberpunk 2077. Let me give you that example as well. When we go back here and we say Cyberpunk, we click on that. CrossOver will install Cyberpunk 2077 via Steam. I don't own that game on Steam. I have it with Good Old Games as a direct download. You can go up here to install an unlisted application. And you need to select the bottle to install into. We say, okay, we call it test bottle. and you need to provide the installer file or disk in order to install the software. So we say edit, and I just give it the regular file from Cyberpunk, the start exe file. If we say install now, it's creating a bottle, okay? And then it tries to install Cyberpunk in this case. There is no installer, so it will fail, but it will create the bottle for you. And then we get a program error here. We say close, that's fine. And we are in our test bottle. By the way, if you have a better idea how to do that with CrossOver, give me a comment below the video. So right now we have an empty bottle, and that is the disadvantage if you don't know the best setup for that software. In my case, D3D metal option was always a good idea to have it DirectX accelerated. So, but now we want to run a command. So if we say run command, we say browse, and you see we're now in the system drive of that bottle, but we go to the external drive, we go to Cyberpunk, and we go to the Cyberpunk exe file and choose that. And now there is a button below that says save command as a launcher. We click that, and now it creates an icon as a launcher in that bottle. We can say cancel. Here is our icon. And if we now click on that, it asks for access on removable volume. That's the external drive I use, says allow. Yeah, okay, it wants to allow the microphone. That is for the multiplayer part, to use voice chat. And as you can see, it's starting Cyberpunk 2027. That's how you can do it if you have already the game somewhere that do not need install, or you don't want to download the installer again and to download it and install it into the bottle on your hard disk. Right now, it's just running off my external drive. One more tip for Battle.net users. If you're using Battle.net and you have your game data for Diablo 4 or World of Warcraft on an external drive, the Battle.net app will complain. So if you go to settings and you say game settings, for instance, I have World of Warcraft and Diablo 4 installed, you can see use different folder. That is the Windows structure folder that comes up from CrossOver. That you go down here to the network drives, to volumes, to SSD, and then games Diablo 4. That would be my folder. So it's the Z file, volumes, SSD, games, and Diablo 4. That's what's in here. It would complain that it is a network folder and it cannot run with game data on network folder. How to get Battle.net accept those files or those locations? You go to CrossOver into the Battle.net bottle and you click Wine configuration. Then you go to the top drives, and here you have the drive Z. Then you go to show advanced, and you see that here I have selected not auto detect, which is standard setting, but I have selected local hard disk. Then you click apply, OK, and then you restart CrossOver, you start Battle.net again, and now Battle.net app will think that it is a local hard drive, which is basically, it is, as it's just connected via USB 3.1. But for CrossOver, with auto detect, these are all network folders. So if you set them to local drive, Battle.net won't complain if you have your data on an external drive. What do you think? Give me your comments below the video, join our Discord community with more than 3,300 members, and start discussing about maybe gaming. Help each other if you have tips and tricks how to get a specific game up and running on your Apple Silicon on Macs. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. Stay tuned for the next videos. Have a good day. Bye bye.